For those for those of you joining us, this is the March 2025 edition of Sales Logic Expert Exchange. This month, it's a very special time. It's just Meredith and myself. We're going to be talking about, hey, what's happening in sales and how do you up your game? You know, every month on Sales Logic Expert Exchange, we have an expert. Next month, month of April, we got Mike Weinberg is going to be joining us. And of course, if you know him, you're going to want to get registered for that. In the past, we've had some unbelievable people. Mayor, good afternoon. You're on the road. I'm on the road, but hey, we're doing it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're doing them from the airport today. So let's dive into the topic. Mark, what are the big things that you're seeing in sales today?
The two big things that I'm seeing continuously happening. One, the sales to close the sale, it's lengthening. It's taking longer and longer, and there are more people involved. And clearly, if it doesn't resonate with something exactly specifically what the customer is working on, they're choosing not to make a decision. This means salespeople who put too many options on the table, it's not happening. Salespeople who take too long to get to the close, not happening. Salespeople who just overcomplicate things, not happening. It's we've got to find a way to circumvent these issues because they're not going to change. What are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing that I feel like definitely the sales cycles have slowed down. But you know what it's making me think with everything that you're talking about is I'm thinking if you want to make it in sales right now, you're going to need to do something to shake it up. You're going to need to do something to stand out just a little bit differently. You're going to need to do something to get in front of your customers and get them to make a decision. So my thought first of all is, what are you doing to really get out there right now and help the customer understand that how painful this market is. Mark, tomorrow morning I'm going to speak to like 600 people in all different types of industry, the part of a purchasing company. And I was online doing a lot of research, and every company I research, it comes up the same thing. Everybody's freaked out about what's going to happen with tariffs. Nobody knows what's going to happen with interest rates. A lot of the companies, immigration is impacting them. Even and this isn't political. It's just the fact that everything I just brought up, nobody knows what is going to happen. I would say that right now, the marketplace is actually pretty optimistic. I find business owners kind of excited about the economy, but they're a little concerned about making a decision in an investment right now because there's so much up in the air.
You bring up a great point on that because there's a lot of optimism. People want to make the decision, but they're hesitant because of all these factors. Now, problem is all of these factors are outside of our control. We can't control any of them. So what we can control is making it simpler for the customer, which means we have to look at ways. How do you're speaking to procurement, you're speaking to purchasing people tomorrow. They want to make sure that every buying decision they make is the best price of the best interest of the lowest quantity. How do we do that? That means we got to really look to simplify every deal that we have. We got to strip away because again, we know our business so well, but our customers don't. We have to be stripping it away. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going out there with the same pitch that you were using um 6 months ago, your pitch is going to be out of date. I mean, I think that's one thing. I also think I was on the plane, and I've been on a plane basically for days because I got stuck on a gig in Kona, Hawaii. So I haven't had access to my telephone. I haven't been able to call and I haven't been able to text. And I'm trying to make an appointment with somebody, and I emailed them and they called me. I emailed them again and I said, I'm so sorry, I'm on a 12-hour flight. I can't call you. Then I get on another plane on Monday. She emailed me back. She said, if this doesn't work for you, then you need to call us. And I just thought to myself, you're creating friction between you and the buyer. And I think that as salespeople, we really need to grasp that it takes so long to get a conversation. And when you get that conversation, you do everything to make it ridiculously easy for the buyer to buy from you.
That is such a great point. And if you stop and think about this, how do we condense down what it is that we do to make it easy? Again, we're all busy. We all run from deal from meeting to meeting, flight to flight, whatever it might be. But we have to make it so easy. But here's one of the ways that I think we confuse customers is that when we do get them on the phone, we sit there and jump into this capabilities presentation. We jump into this mindset, and we just have to sit there and ask them a question. We have to engage them, and this is one of the biggest challenges that salespeople have not learned for thousands of years. Shut up and listen to the customer, because it's interesting that that customer wanted to engage with you, right? So that meant there was some sort of an interest. What do you think piqued their interest as to why they wanted to talk with you?
Why they wanted to talk with me?
Yeah, yeah,
No, I wanted to talk with them. I was
I
I was
got it.
I I was the customer. I can go with that. I can go on that conversation in that line is the fact that because I'm really working on this in my business, is I don't think what I have done to date has been is going to work in the next 6 months to get customers to want to talk to me. I think that we have got to, I was wondering about this today. I was watching a lot of our peers, and their videos are really full of bells and whistles. Where do you fall on the bells and whistles versus the concrete information?
That comes down to it's the outcome. It's the outcome that the customer is going to take away from whatever it is they're doing, why they want to do business with you. And again, we don't do a good enough job of looking and understand that because we really are not taking the time to understand our customer's customer. Because remember, our customers are making a buying decision. Why? Because undoubtedly they're looking to serve somebody else. And I don't care if this is B2B or B2C. Even if it's B2C, you know, a spouse, a couple might be making a decision because it's going to be in their best interest of somebody else in their family or something else. But again, there's always somebody else. We have to understand who that somebody else is. And if we don't have a chance of really getting to where the customer's at. And I think that helps us. We have to really frame up the question, why are we talking? We can't be scared to ask the customer difficult questions. And I find so many salespeople are more afraid than ever to ask difficult questions. Oh no, it's the marketplace is so tough. I think more than ever, we have to ask tough questions.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think you're afraid to ask tough questions if you're afraid to lose the sale. But I think that you've got to ask the tough questions. So you really, if you don't ask the tough questions, you don't really understand what the problem is, and you don't really understand what it is that they're really trying to buy. Um, Mark, we were talking about trends and what we're really seeing in sales today. And this term keeps coming up, and that is personalization, hyper personalization. What does that even mean? And what does it mean to personalize the buying experience?
Well, I think means to personalize it means it's not necessarily knowing what they're like personally. Hey, what college did they go to or what community they live in? But personalizing means it fits again the outcome that they are looking for. In other words, why is the customer looking for this? That's what we have to understand. The questions we have to be asking customers today is why are we even talking? We can't be afraid to ask it. What are some other solutions that you've either tried or you're looking at? In other words, I want to understand what's been the journey, what's been the buyer's journey up to this point in time as to why we're having the conversation. And if we're not there, guess what? We're only going to close the sale if the customer really wants to fall into our lap. And that's only about 5% of the time at best.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite tough questions, and I don't even think it's a tough question. It's something I really want to know is like, why now? Why do you want to make this decision now? And that helps me establish, you know, the sense of urgency around that. One of your favorites is who else needs to be involved in the decision. And that's
Yes.
probably more critical than ever today because need to understand, you know, um, everybody that you need to sell to.
I love that. In fact, one of our mastermind folks, is on the call, Vincent. He says, I agree 100% that you need to challenge your prospect. We absolutely do. And that's why I love asking, who else has been involved in decisions like this? How do you go about making this decision? And I gotta ask them the question, how does this fit into your overall objectives? How does this fit into other things you're looking to accomplish? And your question in terms of time frame, so important because there's two reasons why people buy: time or money. In other words, time. It's not the money spent, but it's the ROI. In other words, will they get ROI? And time. Is it being going to be delivered in the time frame that they're looking for? We do that, we hit the home run, and we're going to be able to close the sale.
What do you think about the competitive landscape right now?
Well, it's more competitive than ever. It is absolutely more competitive. But here's something. Here's something that I'm already seeing and I'm sensing because I've over the last week. I don't know about you, but I've had half a dozen people send me their resumes. Hey, I just got downsized. Just got just got cut. Period. And companies are starting to go into a panic, and they're actually starting to dial down their sales. Here's the thing. I tell this to every salesperson, every company. This is not the time to do it because I hear this every time there's a hesitation in the economy. Sales leaders, CEOs will sit there and say, we're going to dial back on sales. And then when we see it picking back up, we'll reinvest. By the time you get the signals it's picking back up, those sales have already left the station. You're late. You've missed out. Now is the time more than ever to keep in the sales game and to be out there and grabbing market share because there's more market share to be had than ever. Because just as you said at the beginning, people are optimistic. They're optimistic. There's this level of uncertainty. As soon as this level of uncertainty, and remember, uncertainty is purely a self belief. It is purely a self belief. That's it. So as soon as they get past this self belief, boom, they're in. They're on.
Well, I do think I do think companies are slowing down, and I don't think there's a problem with slowing down. I mean, I think it's smart. There's inflation out there right now. Nobody knows what's going to happen with interest rates. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the tariffs. So what if you miss your first or your second quarter sales goal? If you keep doing your sales behaviors right through it, then you're going to make it in third and fourth quarter.
Okay, now I got to paraphrase because I got to back up what you said. It's okay to slow down. In other words, it's okay if you miss your number. You're not saying to slow down your sales effort, right?
Absolutely. No, no,
There,
no.
right,
No, not at
right.
all. You got to keep selling. Like you said it before, we don't control the buying cycle, right? So we don't control when a customer buys. So there is a lot that is uncertain that we're moving into the second quarter of the year that's still uncertain that may not be worked out till June or July. But if you wait till June or July, um, uh, you're gonna be so far behind in the sales cycle. So you got to keep selling right through.
Vincent, mastermind member, he jumps in again. He says maybe speed up the sales volume. Vincent, I can't agree with you more. Now is more time than ever that we need to actually be expanding our pipeline, be expanding our outreach. Why? Because it is taking longer to close. It's a little harder to verify, more people involved, et cetera, et cetera. So that means you've got to speed up the sales volume by having more in your pipeline, but you speed it up by asking tough questions because there's a fork in the road in your pipeline, fork in the road. It says, okay, this customer is activated and in the motion to buy. No, this prospect is not activated. So we move them over to marketing. We have to be willing to take leads once they're in our pipeline and we feel they're qualified prospects. They still may fall out and they go into a marketing lane versus an active sales process. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in what do you qualify as the stages of your sales cycle?
Sure. The stages of my sales cycle, first of all, I got to understand, we go back to BANT and people poo poo that. I still believe it very much. But I come down to this. Am I dealing with the true, not the decision maker, but the person who controls the money? Two, do I understand the outcome as to why they have to solve this now? What's the critical need? And three, do they have the budget to go ahead and make the decision? If I can get those three, then they're in the activated stage. But see, sometimes what happens is you may have an activated, a prospect that you feel is activated, but they tell you, well, you know what? We still have to work through inventory, a full year's worth of inventory, or we have to do this. We're already planned out. So it's going to be 18 months or 24 months. Okay, guess what? They move over to my marketing lane. I'm not going to be wasting sales cycles on them as much. But those are the three that I go for. Am I dealing with the true economic, the person who can buy it? Do I understand what their need is, the outcome, and does it tie back into a critical need that they have? And three, do they have the budget?
So, Mark, what's one thing that if you had to say in 2025, you need to be doing differently in sales to be successful personally for you? What are the parts of your sales strategy you're going to change up or that you feel maybe aren't working as well as they've worked in the past?
Oh, great question. I think it's getting laser focused even more. In other words, you know, well, the old 80-20 rule, 20% of anything delivers 80% of the results. We all have to look, and this is something I've been challenging myself with over the last couple of weeks. What is it that I got to stop doing? What is it that and I've had this conversation with some members on my team. There's some things that we're just going to stop doing because, again, it's not returning the results we're looking for. We're going to focus our effort into fewer efforts or into fewer things, but drive a more diligent effort. We also have to remember this, and this is the thing that I think in 2025, it's easy for all of us to panic and we say it not happen. The true top performer always plays the long game. They play the long game. They know that there are things that you're going to do today that may not pan out for 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months, even 2 years, 3 years, but they're willing to do it because it fits. What does it all come down to? You got to know what your goals are and what are the objectives you got to do to reach those goals.
See, for me, I found this year I've got to double my pipeline. Well, the pipeline that carried me through last year won't carry me through this year. The decision making has slowed down so much that we've doubled our prospecting efforts over here because I had X amount I needed to carry in my pipeline that was a goal for me. Now I need to double that this year. The other is I've really kicked back up. Something I had let go of. I made 12 appointments over the weekend to revisit and talk with existing customers, people that I've worked with in the last couple of years, just to reach out and talk to them and just doing an informational interview with them, hopefully to find two things. Number one, to redefine the pain point. I don't know that when I'm not selling, it tells me I don't really understand what's going on in the marketplace. And I need to do better work and deeper work to intimately understand where the pain points are. I mean, I think in today's marketplace, for everybody who's listening, you need to ask yourself, when a customer finds you on LinkedIn, a prospect finds your website, comes to your company, do they look at it and think that person can solve my problem? And the only way to know that, I felt like I had the answer to that, and I don't feel like I do anymore. I feel like the problems have shifted and I need to do more work there. So doubling my pipeline, I got to do a better job of figuring out more intimately what the customer problem is. We're kicking back up existing customers, and then I'm trying to take my whole look up a notch. I was really asking myself, do I look professional enough? Like do I look like when you turn to me, I could be the expert that could solve your problems? And I think the answer was for 2023 and 4, I was. For 2025, it's not good enough. So my point is the that we cannot control the fact that the market has gotten tight. And when the market gets tight, you got to do some things different. Now, those are just the areas that I'm going to change. I don't know what areas, our listeners are going to change. It'd be great to chime in and talk about that, but you got to do some things differently. So ironically, at a time when I think my business is going to slow down, I'm investing more in my business to up my game.
Okay, you said so much there. We got to unpack a lot of that because there's a couple key things there. You and I had both always believed that it was kind of about a 3.5x in terms of what we needed to keep in our pipeline, right?
Right.
Isn't that kind and you're right, with decisions taking longer, we probably have to be looking at a 4 and 5x. Now, in order for us to go to a 5x pipeline, that's hard because that means there's more to manage. There's more cycles, there's more reps, there's more things. What does that do? It forces us to be even more organized than we've ever been before. That is absolutely key. And I think that's the challenge, because that's what I've been resonating at. I don't have enough time under my current configuration to do what I need to do. So there's stuff that we've got to say, you know what, this was productive in 23 and 24. The dog don't hunt in 2025. But what is
Right.
this going to do? It's going to make us a whole lot more efficient. Now, there's something else that you said there, going back to past customers. And this is one of the beautiful things about the conversations we have. And it's a beautiful conversation about the Sales Logic Mastermind podcast. Remember, on Saturday, we were talking about following up on the podcast. We were talking about following up with past customers. And you bet that resonated with me too, because believe me, we're going back through, and I sent a couple emails to my team this morning, and a couple of messages, and really trying to say, where are we at with this? Because again, we all have more business than we realize. I absolutely do. People kind of freak out over the fact that, oh, they don't have enough business. No. The biggest challenge we're going to have is if we have to have a 5x or even a 6x pipe, which I think for a lot of salespeople is going to be a 6x pipe. What does that mean we're going to have to have? We are going to have a very systematic process of being able to stay in touch. The problem is we're going to naturally say it's going to be AI. AI is not the answer. AI
No.
can help us, but it's not the answer.
Yeah. AI can definitely help, but it is definitely not the answer. In fact, I was talking with a sales team today who's struggling to hit their goals. I apologize. I've lost my phone somewhere. There it is. But I'm
That's
struggling.
not good. That's not good when you lose your phone. No.
But what they said was they just need some more tools. And I was talking with their sales leader, and I said, you never need another tool. I said, a good salesperson can close a deal with a telephone and a pencil. That's all they need. And so this isn't about another tool. And in fact, I think in a marketplace that gets tough, using too much AI and stuff is definitely not your answer.
No, I thank you for saying that, because whenever things don't go awry, when things aren't going right, people always say, "I just need another tool. I just need another tool." No, that's not the answer. The best tool we have is our own time and our own mindset, and we have to be willing to drive that much harder. That's why it comes back to it. It's organizing our own day as to what it is that we're doing and how we're using our time. That's going to be the most effective process. Hey, Vivian, who is on the call, she says we have to rethink how to help our customers to buy. The mindset change for me is switching from selling to them to helping them buy. So spot on. Sales is not what we do to people. Sales is what we get to do for people. But
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
well, I'm just, Vivian, you're making such a great point. I mean, I was just thinking about this as well in my own business. Like, what am I doing to put together the case studies? What am I doing? Like, when I hear you say that, what I hear is, what am I doing to take the risk out of the buying process for the customer? If they're looking at me and like four or five other people that they want to buy them, what am I doing to take the risk out and to help them easily choose me over the competition? I think that's a great question for every single one of our customers to answer.
It is so true, because think about this: risk. The greater the risk, the less likelihood the customer is of making a decision.
Right.
Now, if they have risk in their own business, it is going to drive them to make a decision, but not necessarily with us.
Right.
And many times what happens is the customer has risk, they have to solve a problem, but they're looking at our solution and they're confused. And a confused customer does not buy. Comes back to your piece in terms of case studies. You're right. If we have case studies, testimonials, those types of things that line up to their ICP, in other words, your ideal customer profile, staying tight, staying focused. It is amazing at the level of success we can have because people will begin to see value that we can help them in a very simplistic manner.
Well, I think, I think a really good question to ask yourself is why would a customer choose you over your competition, and be able to answer that in one sentence. And until you can answer that in one sentence, you're not really making it easier for the customer to buy from you.
You know, it's interesting. It's not for us to answer that. It's for our customers. We need to go ask past customers, why did you buy from us? Why
Mhm.
did you buy from me? Because again, we breathe our own exhaust. I mean, we tend to think we're the greatest, you know, solution in the world, and we're not. But that's a great question what you just posed. Go ask 5 or 10 of your past customers. Say, why did you buy from me? What was it that worked? And in fact, some of those customers, you need to be asking them this question: what did you see that I did that you didn't like? How did my process line up with other people's process? We have to be very candid. And again, I think salespeople are afraid to do this. But the salesperson that does that is going to come away with a tremendous amount of insight that others aren't going to have. And this is the beautiful thing. In this era that we're in right now, this kind of this uncertainty, we have the ability to come out of it so much stronger than ever, so much stronger than ever before, if we're willing to learn from all this.
So I'm curious, really, with our listeners, what are you challenged with in sales right now? Where are your obstacles? Where are your areas that, that you're struggling with? I definitely look. I don't know about how our listeners feel about this today, but I have definitely seen a shift in the buying cycle, and pretty much everybody I talk with is struggling to hit goal consistently. You definitely have some of your top performers that are hitting it, but it isn't a figment of your imagination that things have changed. And so, what areas are you struggling with, and what areas do you need support with?
Great. Hey, I'd love to have some people chime in on that, but I'm going to add something that I'm seeing top performers. I get to coach several very elite top performers. You know how they're making their number? Existing accounts,
Mhm.
because of existing accounts. Now, they've been able to do two things with those existing accounts. They've been able to stay ahead of the game in terms of being able to understand their marketplace before they understand their marketplace. So, in other words, helping bring them solutions. That's been absolutely terrific. And they've also been fearless about creating additional relationships. Uh, Gentleman who I love coaching, absolutely unbelievable. He made the comment to me. He said, "I have opened up more relationships with other people in the company than I ever have before." And I asked him, I said, "Why'd you do that?" He says, "Well, truth be told, I was paranoid that I wasn't going to make my number." Ah, isn't that interesting? Sometimes you got to get pushed to the mat to do what you know you need to do, which comes back to a question. This is an old uh, ratio. Now, every salesperson's got to figure it out for themselves. But if you're an account manager and you primarily deal with existing accounts, you have to ask yourselves, how many relationships do you need to have, meaningful relationships that can deliver business, to make your number? And what this may mean is you may have one customer that does 30% of your business or 40% of your business. Maybe in that customer, then, because it's 40% of your business, you need to have 8 relationships. Do you have 8 relationships? Maybe you have another one that delivers 20% of your number. Okay, you got to have 4 meaningful. In other words, you create a ratio of meaningful relationships to the percent of business that you know you need to get. And you got to get locked in on that. And right now, more than ever, for those of you who are managing existing customers, existing accounts, that is a rule you can take to the bank. And believe me, it pays out every time.
Mark, so do you just make that ratio up on your own?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And in other words, it's just you kind of say, okay, I'm responsible for $2 million a year, and I say, okay, how many relationships am I probably going to have? Well, say it's then to get $2 million out of my accounts, I need to have 20 relationships. Okay, so then I begin backing in. So if I've got a customer that delivers 40%, you know, it's eight it's 8 relationships. So you factor it in yourself. And again, it's going to be different for each person. There's no silver bullet. But the idea being is it's pushing you, regardless of where you're at right now with your account. Say, I got to get more relationships. And it just becomes this target that you begin measuring yourself to.
Okay. That's a good challenge. That's a challenge I can take. I don't think I've done that with my own, with my own pipeline.
Yeah.
So I think that that's, another trend I keep hearing about is creating an experience for the customer. What do you think that means?
Well, creating this is wild. I think creating an experience means different things to different people. Because again, I see some people would say creating an experience means I don't have to deal with you at all. I can do everything I need online. That's the experience. Somebody else might say the experience I want with you is because you're going to bring me so many critical insights that are going to help me with my business in the out quarters and the out years. So again, experience is going to be based on the individual person, which means we have to be adept at really understanding what is this customer looking for? What is it that they want? And that's what you get. That's what you have to dial in. I'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of customer experience.
You know, I was really thinking about this, and I was really thinking, is it omni-channel? Is it making sure that the customer um can do business with you however they want to, or is it wowing the customer at some point that they didn't expect, some type of over delivery? Um, I don't know. I'm thinking to myself that are there things within my own buying cycle that I could make the experience better for the customer? But I think we're back to what we talked about before. I don't know until I talk to the customer where the experience could use improvement.
But I think you got to put stuff out there and see how the customer responds. I'll give you an example. My wife and I happen to be in wine country for the weekend. We're heading home today. And on Saturday, we did a wine tasting experience at a winery. And I was just kind of intrigued. This is and it wow, it was amazing the little things that they did to create an unbelievable experience, an experience that I never would have expected, never would have thought. And I go, very, very interesting. Now I have a feeling that that experience varies by the type of person, varies by whatever. But the person who was kind of serving us, so to speak, and engaging with us in conversation knew when to dial up and knew when to dial it down, knew when to kind of bring this out, knew when to take that. And what did it do? It created an experience. If you think about Disney World, you go to Disney World, what do? They create an experience. And if you're there with your kids, it's going to be a different experience than if you're there just as adults. And again, these are all various things that come into play. So I think experience varies dramatically, but you got to put something out there. But I think more than ever, you're right. The customer is looking for it. Customer
You,
has to feel engagement.
um, so I'm curious, do you, even if what you sell is metal pipe, do you create an experience for the customer?
Yes, yes, I think you do because the experience you do and it may come down to a simple thing of how do you confirm the orders? How do you review the tensile strength of the pipe? How do you review? How do you help them understand how this comes into play, sourcing and so forth? That there's always experience really is centered around education. How do you help educate the customer? And if I can help educate the customer, then guess what? I'm creating an experience for them. Because what am I doing? I'm allowing them to feel better. I'm allowing them to feel more confident. Experience is really designed to do two things, I think. One, create confidence, and two, create something that you remember. And if I can do both of those, I've hit a home run.
Okay, great. What about AI? Where does AI fit into our world today with sales?
Well, I think AI fits in very well because AI is giving us insights and information that we never had before. Because again, any of us who go into a sales call that is not where we're not informed of the customer, not informed on their industry, etc. We are committing sales suicide because the information's there. The information is there, so we need to do that. But here's the whole thing: I still go back to AI is an opening tool. It's not a closing tool. It is an opening tool. It gives us insights. Gives us insights as to the questions we should be asking. It's not going to necessarily give us the answer. And the other thing is this: our good friend Sam Richter, who created the search engine on the back end of Sales Logic Mastermind, says this so well. He says, got to remember that 65% of everything you get on an AI engine, an AI bot, is going to be false. You got to make sure that you verify. You got to make sure. And I was on the phone with him, this was a week ago, and we went through several things, and it was amazing what Chat and Gemini and some others were coming back with. Not even close to being the real world. They're just making stuff up. Be cautious. Be cautious.
All right, Mark, it is about time for us to get over and go behind the scenes. But we always like to talk in this session about the Sales Logic Mastermind. We have this powerful group of people that come together every single month for the Sales Logic Mastermind. We solve problems, we solve challenges, we hold each other accountable. In essence, we work together in a collective way to help one another exceed our sales goals.
That is without a doubt. And what you want to do is you want to go over to saleslogicpodcast.com right now. You can see up at the top Mastermind. Check out the Mastermind, because when you join the Mastermind, we got a number of Mastermind people on this call now, and they'll be waiting for us behind the curtain here when we get there in a couple minutes. But we do a lot of things just as a community, and every member of the Mastermind, I know you hear this all the time, I do too. It is a community, and more than ever right now in sales, you better be part of a community, because it can get lonely out there. Lonely. And you need people out there who are supporting you. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. African proverb, so true when it comes to Sales Logic Mastermind. That's what we want you to check out. So go to saleslogicmastermind.com. Check it out, because there's so many tools that people get behind the scenes. Already today, I've received 2 text messages from 2 different members. One who said they couldn't make it on the call, and the other one said, hey, can I get some time with you next week? I got some special questions. That's the community, the power.
We're there to hold each other accountable, there to help each other achieve our goals. And we'd love to have you be a part of the Sales Logic Mastermind. Mark, talk a little bit about the brain that we have in there.
Yeah, the brain is really kind of cool, because what we did was we had a very smart company take all of Meredith's content, all of my content, put it together into a single source tool. In other words, you can ask the brain, Sales Logic Brain, any question you want, and it's going to answer it with exact, hey, check out this podcast, check out this book, check out this. And it's going to come back with an answer as if you were talking to either Meredith or myself. And that's what's beautiful. What's good is we continue to upload more content into that every week. So it continues to get better and better. But the Sales Logic Brain is absolute gold if you have any questions. Because a lot of times people will kind of say, you know what, I can't get back to you. I'm kind of, but Mastermind members know they can just go right to the brain, ask the question, and man, it's like they're talking to you, talking to me. It's great.
We've also got this amazing role play feature in there. So, so nothing better than role playing and really having a good conversation around that. So again, a lot of creative things. And the most important thing I think with sales is to be part of a community, be part of where people are working together, holding one another accountable, and helping each other achieve their goals. So we'd love to have you be a part of the mastermind, but now we got to go behind the scenes with the members.
Yes.
Remember,
Yes.
join us Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of our Sales Logic podcast. If you have questions, feel free to put them in there. We'll feature you on the show. And look for next month, we're going to have Mike Weinberg. Mark, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about Mike?
If you don't know Mike Weinberg, Sales Simplified, New Sales Simplified, Sales Management Simplified. Absolutely 2 great books. He is absolutely a brainchild and just a great individual who does sales and life right. He's going to be joining us next month on the Sales Logic Expert Exchange. This same time, exact same place. You'll see the registration link appearing in the saleslogicpodcast.com website. Join us for that.
All right. Mastermind members, we'll see you back there. And the rest of you, hope to see you behind the scenes next month.
Take care.